In 1999, the CART FedEx Championship Series announced what was billed as a bold new addition to its calendar, the Hawaiian SuperPrix. The idea was ambitious, a postseason invitation-only all-star race held at the Kaliloa Airport in Hawaii, offering a staggering $10 million purse and a $5 million reward for the winner. Despite all the promise, less than a month before the scheduled race, the event was cancelled. Why did such a high-profile idea implode? In this video, I'll take a look back at one of the PR blunders that became all too common for CART at the turn of the millennium. CART, in their ongoing battle for open-wheel supremacy with the Indy Racing League, needed a marquee event. Their attempt to run the US 500 head-to-head with the Indianapolis 500 had been disappointing. Although they still had races like the Michigan 500 and Grand Prix of Long Beach, it was never enough to match up with the prestige of the Indy 500. In that regard, the IRL had the one true ace up its sleeve. At the same time, promoter Dick Rutherford had always dreamed of bringing a high-level IndyCar race to Hawaii. Throughout the 1990s, he worked tirelessly to make his dream a reality. On one hand, we have a promoter desperate to gain the backing behind his proposed event, and on the other, we have a sanctioning body desperate for a marquee event in a prime location. I think you can see where this is headed. On February 25th, 1999, an announcement was made stating that CART would run a race in Hawaii on Saturday, November 13th, 1999 at 1 p.m. Hawaiian time, which would be 6 p.m. Eastern. As CART already had the Marlboro 500 at Fontana locked in as the season finale, the Hawaiian SuperPrix would be a non-championship event. Taking inspiration from NASCAR's Winston All-Star race, the starting field would be exclusive. It would consist of the top 12 in the CART standings plus 4 wildcard entries. Debate raged on who the 4 wildcard entries would be. Originally, the idea was to invite retired drivers, or drivers who had had success in CART and moved on to other series, like Jacques Villeneuve. However, CART officials decided that they didn't want any outsiders to come in and win, especially at a time when the series was fighting for its life in the motorsport landscape. Although the wildcard entries were never announced, it's likely the invitations would have gone out to popular American drivers outside the top 12 in points, like Al Unser Jr. or Robbie Gordon. As there were no points to be handed out, the main draw was the astronomical prize money on offer. The overall $10 million purse would have surpassed that year's total purse at the Indy 500, and the $5 million to the winner would have been the single largest payout to any race winner in US motorsport history, more than double the amount that Jeff Gordon received for winning that year's Daytona 500. The track itself would have been a 1.8-mile, 10-turn course around the Kaliloa Airport in Oahu. Champ Cars had a long successful run on an airport track in Cleveland, and the track in Hawaii was well positioned to put on great racing in much the same way. The race format would have also been unique. Like NASCAR's All-Star race, it would have been broken up into segments. It would have consisted of 2 60-minute heats with a halftime intermission. Drivers would have received points for both heats, and the one with the most overall points in both would have been declared the winner. It was planned to have a 30-minute halftime with a Super Bowl-like show. This all sounds great on paper, but the reality of the situation was much different. The time from the announcement to the actual race was only 9 months. Events like this need a longer lead time to get stuff done. The airport needed major infrastructure improvements like paving runways, building a pit lane, building spectator areas, things like that. The race also had a shortened marketing time, which was needed to sell the 50,000 tickets and recoup the costs of the enormous purse. The race needed lots of sponsorship to cover that purse. But with the race being announced well into the calendar year, sponsorship budgets for 1999 had already been decided upon, and it was difficult to get companies involved with CART or in Hawaii to depart with any more of their money. Another key issue was television coverage. ABC and ESPN held the TV rights to CART, but they only signed on for the regular season championship races. They were not expecting CART to add on another race at the end of the year. Because of this, both ABC and ESPN were unable to broadcast the Saturday race, as they were tied up all day with college football. After CART tried and failed to secure a different network to show the race, they eventually settled on a pay-per-view model with Showtime. Now, CART ratings had already plummeted by 1999. Although the racing was awesome, it simply was not the television draw it once was. Putting the race on pay-per-view would not have been successful. People were not watching the series when it was free to air. Why would they pay to watch what amounted to an exhibition race? Showtime realized this, and backed out of the race to instead show the Evander Holyfield-Lennox Lewis fight that same day. Eventually, CART signed a deal with Speedvision to show the race on cable. It's likely it would have been a disaster ratings-wise. A labor dispute made finishing the track tough. Ticket sales were very slow, with only 20,000 of the 50,000 being sold, and a discounted rate did little to buck that trend. New races in their first year, especially temporary tracks like street courses, and in this case airport courses, run in the red. It takes several years to start turning a profit. But the organizers of the Hawaiian SuperPrix really spent a ton of money getting the event off the ground, and it was unlikely they'd be able to pay CART for the sanctioning fee or pay the competitors the advertised prize money. Race organizers did receive loans to cover the costs, but when it became clear that the race was unlikely to happen, CNB Capital, an investment firm and underwriter for the race, backed out of the whole deal. On October 19th, just 25 days away from the race, the announcement was made that the Hawaiian SuperPrix would be cancelled. The fall of 1999 was a PR disaster for CART. The deaths of Gonzalo Rodriguez at Laguna Seca and Greg Moore at Fontana bookended the Hawaiian SuperPrix debacle. At the turn of the 21st century, CART management could never seem to get out of their own way. Driver safety, failed races like Hawaii and Texas in 2001, a failed public offering on the stock market, the poor reception of the film Driven, driving away Honda and Toyota to the IRL with silly rule changes. All these things added up over time. After CEO Andrew Craig was ousted, CART cycled through different leadership, all while the series melted down behind the scenes. Eventually, the series went bankrupt and was reorganized into Champ Car for several years until that too hit financial issues and was merged back with the IRL in 2008, finally bringing an end to the split. The Hawaiian SuperPrix is a microcosm of CART in the split era, trying to bite off more than they could chew in an attempt to prevent the tide from turning in favor of the IRL. Although the failed SuperPrix is more on the shoulders of the race promoters rather than CART itself, it shows that CART was willing to do business with people who are overpromising and under-delivering. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.